The notion that Snoop Dogg entered Johnny Dang's store and engaged in a face-to-face altercation over counterfeit diamonds has caused a stir on the internet. The discourse around Snoop, counterfeit jewelry, and one of the most prominent jewelers in hip-hop has been intensifying. And we'll examine the specific connections between each of these elements and the events that transpired. Let's begin with the claims of fake diamond music that have been making the rounds in the jewelry industry and work our way down to Snoop's role in it all. In order to comprehend how Snoop Dogg's name became linked to Johnny Dang in a fictitious diamond controversy, you must first comprehend Johnny Dang's identity and the significance of the allegations made against him regarding his jewels. Hip-hop mouthpieces made of gold and diamonds are credited to Johnny Dang, a Vietnamese-American jewelry designer. Johnny Dang & Co., a jewelry store in Houston, Texas, is the main source of the Vietnamese-American businessman's wealth since its founding in 1998. He has sold personalized gold and diamond jewelry to prominent figures in the entertainment sector, including as Snoop Dogg and Kanye West. From nothing, the man created his empire. Before switching to jewelry creation, Johnny Dang worked as a watch repairman. His breakthrough came when he began making diamond-encrusted pieces and custom grills for rappers in Houston. Dang didn't learn about his specialty, diamond-encrusted grills, until he met American rapper Paul Wall. Dang's ability to create grills without the need for teeth filing impressed Paul, and in the early 2000s, they established a commercial collaboration that helped Dang break into the hip-hop industry. The client list continued to expand after that. Dang's status in Texas was solidified when Houston musicians like Mike Jones, Slim Thug, and Chamillionaire became frequent patrons. Kanye West, Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, and Beyoncé were among the musicians he later worked with. What counts in this situation is the last name on that list. Snoop Dogg is a regular customer. When Johnny Dang & Company moved from its previous Sharpstown site to a freestanding 14,000-square-foot flagship store in Houston in 2016, it marked a key turning point in the company's growth. Dang started making custom grills for well-known personalities outside of the hip-hop scene, such as Tony Hawk, Jeffree Star, and Paris Hilton. The well-known businessman and several of his personalized jewelry lines have been highlighted in hip-hop publications music, including XXL Ozone in The Source, and on television programs like BET's Spring Bling and MTV's Super Sweet 16 Music. With a company that large and so many customers, the limelight now brings scrutiny in addition to admiration. And when a former employee named Plug Music Geo publicly accused Johnny Dang of using CVD diamonds rather than real diamonds in pieces sold to rappers, that scrutiny intensified. Johnny Dang was exposed by former employee Plug Geo for using CVD's music in place of real diamonds. Additionally, Plug Geo claimed that Johnny Dang failed to provide security and refused to offer him a fair rise. Lab-grown diamonds are known as CVDs. They appear authentic. Under some circumstances, they test as real. However, there is a distinct boundary for the kind of customers Johnny Dang serves. Most of my customers are rappers, actresses, and music big ballers. In their eyes, lab diamonds are fake, stated Johnny Dang. Dang claims that it's difficult to distinguish between the two. Music claiming that a typical consumer's naked music eye cannot distinguish between a lab-created diamond and a natural diamond. Thus, Plug Geo's accusation was not insignificant. It would be a serious violation of trust that might ruin careers if a jeweler whose whole business is based on selling real diamonds to rappers, athletes, artists, and celebrities was surreptitiously switching lab-grown stones. For years now, Johnny Dang's name has been clouded by this. The discussion has continued, thanks to a number of forum discussions, TikToks, and YouTube films. Some customers have even tried their Johnny Dang pieces in public and reported conflicting outcomes. Chief Keef once visited K Jewelers in California to use a testing music device to establish the legitimacy of the diamonds in his Johnny Dang pendant and diamond watch. Thus, while some pieces pass, others pose issues. That's the background. That's the setting in which the whole Snoop Dogg scenario takes place. A shadow of skepticism surrounding a West Coast legend and one of the most well-known music jewelers in hip-hop who just became publicly involved in a false chain incident. Let's now concentrate on Snoop Dogg. American rapper, singer, record producer, and actor Calvin Cordazar Broadus Jr. is better known by his stage name, Snoop Dogg. With 35 million records sold worldwide and 16 Grammy nominations, his three-decade career is unmatched. However, Snoop has been active as a businessman in addition to his music. Additionally, purchasing Death Row Records was his most significant economic decision in recent years. Blackstone-managed private equity funds controlled MNRK Music Group, which sold the Death Row Records brand to Snoop Dogg. I am ecstatic and grateful for the chance to purchase the legendary and culturally significant Death Row Records brand, which has enormous, unrealized potential. Music, it feels good to have ownership of the label I was part of at the beginning of my career and as one of the founding members. This is an extremely meaningful moment for me, Snoop stated. Dr. Dre, Suge Knight, The Doc, and Dick Griffey founded the label in 1992 right after NWA broke up. Music during the 1990s, the label gained popularity by producing multi-platinum hip-hop albums by West Coast musicians like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac music. At its height, Death Row earned more than $100 million a year, so Snoop wasn't merely purchasing a brand. Danny Boy's musical journey began when Suge Knight signed him to Death Row Records at the tender music age of 16. Music he was reclaiming a piece of his own history, and part of that meant reaching back for the people who helped build it. Revered for his soulful vocals on Tupac's platinum hits like I Ain't Mad at Shaw and Picture Me Rolling, Danny Boy's voice graced iconic tracks on Tupac's albums, including All Eyes on Me and The Dawn Illuminati, The 7-Day Music Theory. After years away from the label, Snoop Dogg publicly contacted Danny Boy on Instagram after seeing a video of the singer singing while working as a line cook in a restaurant music and seemed to invite the Chicago vocalist back to the label. Snoop said, "Your seat on Death Row awaits you," and the recipient immediately said, "Wow, I'm ready." A few months later, the reunion became official when Snoop Dogg announced on Instagram that former Death Row Records artist Danny Music Boy has returned to his home label. Snoop posted music accompanied with a string of emojis. And they started working. Back in 2024, Danny Boy and Snoop Dogg collaborated on a number of songs, including So High and My Everything. The story seemed to be one of redemption, a legacy artist getting a second chance. Danny Boy released You Are My Everything featuring Snoop Dogg, and Snoop dedicated the song to his wife, Shantae Breeze, just before her upcoming birthday. In February 2026, Danny Boy sat down with The Art of Dialogue for an interview that would go viral in a matter of hours. In early 2026, however, the tone of that story completely changed because Danny Boy dropped a bomb that nobody expected and landed on Snoop Dogg. The internet celebrated the label owner looking out for someone from the old days. In an interview with The Art of Dialogue, Danny Boy talked about how Snoop Dogg once gave him a fake necklace while they were filming a music video for the song So High. He said, "Snoop took this off his neck and put it on my neck in the So High video. I wanted to go have the chain cleaned. I'm not sure if I should have believed it to be real, but the person I took it to said, 'What's this?' And I responded, 'What do you mean, what's this?'" According to Danny Boy's account, the chain fell straight off Snoop Dogg's neck. He put it on. He thought it was genuine. He carried it around as if it were valuable. And the truth didn't surface until he had it cleaned by a jeweler. Danny Boy said that the chain was covered with diamonds rather than genuine gold. It also didn't resemble the expensive item it seemed to be at all. He was humiliated by the revelation, especially since he had worn it in public and thought it had symbolic and financial significance. However, the humiliation was just one aspect of it. Danny Boy underlined that there was danger involved as well. He clarified that being seen with a necklace that appeared precious, but wasn't may have produced a truly dangerous situation considering where he was living at the time. Danny Boy also described how he felt threatened while wearing the necklace in Chicago because he thought it was worth $100,000 and that someone would try to rob him. Take a moment to consider that. A man with a chain he thought was worth 6 digits. strolling through areas where wearing such jewelry makes you a target. The risk was real, but the value was not, and the piece was worthless the entire time. He experienced a complex emotional mixture of relief and humiliation upon realizing it was a hoax. He shakes his head at the memories throughout the interview, emphasizing that the necklace wasn't just fake, it also made him appear silly and put him in danger without cause. During the interview, Danny Boy didn't hold back. He labeled Snoop Dogg worse and likened his actions to those of Suge Knight, a former death row boss. Danny Boy claimed that Snoop had given him a fake chain. He continued by drawing negative comparisons between Snoop and former death row chief Suge Knight. The chain took on symbolic meaning for Danny Boy. He made a comparison between it and the loan plaque he claims to have received from Snoop, implying that both objects are merely token gestures rather than sincere expressions of gratitude. He states unequivocally that Snoop's acts were phony and compares them to the allegiance he anticipated following decades of shared experience. Here it is then. The man who brought him back handed him a useless chain and used it as a prop for a music video, according to a recently resigned former member of Death Row. The story was worse than the visuals, and the internet was ready to run wild. The response to the interview clip on social media was instantaneous. The response to the interview was quick and mostly humorous after it appeared on social media. Many users on X, the former name of Twitter, found the entire affair more humorous than scandalous, and they swamped the comments with jokes and memes. While some believed the entire situation was exaggerated, others supported Danny Boy. Some readers questioned the reasoning behind Danny Boy's annoyance, claiming that any ostentatious chain, real or fake, could attract unwanted attention. They therefore believed that his fear of reprisals was illogical. The jokes came next. He would try to sell it low uno reverse, Snoop knew. On X, one user responded to the interview. "I'm delighted he stuck with it and got some camera time for it." Another music was added. "It's obviously sentimental." However, the discussion turned away from memes and jokes and into a far more significant issue. From where did the chain originate? Who produced the false chain that Snoop Dogg was sporting? He was sold it by whom? At that point, the story began to incorporate the connection to Johnny Dang and the bigger phony diamond discourse. You see, Johnny Dang has had Snoop Dogg as a client for a long time. Kanye West, Snoop Dogg, and other prominent figures in the entertainment sector have purchased personalized gold and diamond jewelry from Johnny Dang's company. A-list celebrities like Travis Scott, Beyoncé, and Snoop Dogg were drawn to Johnny Dang as his clientele grew and his name became synonymous with upscale grills and diamond-encrusted accessories. We must now be clear about this. No one has verified that Johnny Dang is the source of the particular chain Danny Boy is referring to. Danny Boy and Snoop Dogg have not established that connection publicly, but on the internet, the timing of Danny Boy's accusation clashing with the long-standing skepticism about Johnny Dang's gems produced a narrative that was hard for people to ignore. Johnny Dang's name will appear when you search for Snoop Dogg, phony diamonds, and jeweler in the same sentence. That is the nature of being the nation's most well-known hip-hop jeweler, while also facing the most widespread accusations. Furthermore, there are multiple sources of the charges. Following Plug Joe's allegations that CVD diamonds were used in place of real stones, numerous former clients and staff members began to relate their own experiences. The impact of even one former employee coming forward has been enormous. Discussions concerning the history of Death Row have been rekindled by Danny Boy's interview. Snoop Dogg's current stewardship of the label and the consequences of mistakes made decades before. Fans aren't only arguing over whether or not the chain was phony. They're arguing over the gesture's significance, how legacy artists are treated, and the hazy distinction between exploitation and compassion. And that's the problem with the whole affair. It has layers. It's a tale about a phony chain on one level. On a deeper level, it has to do with the trust that exists between an artist and the person who signs their checks. On a deeper level, it's about the confidence that rappers have in the jewelers who create their public personas. Every rapper that enters a store, spends 6 figures on a piece, and then wears it on camera is putting their reputation in the hands of the jeweler. The rapper appears phony if the jewels are phony. Furthermore, appearing phony is the worst thing in hip-hop. Online reactions to the remarks were swift, particularly in light of Snoop's present position as the label's boss. Snoop has not yet addressed the accusations in public, and this quiet has been observed. People filled the void left by Danny Boy's statement and Snoop's silence with their own theories. Some believe Snoop was ignoring it because he didn't want to attract further attention to the fact that the charge was accurate. Others believe Snoop was being astute by avoiding potentially dangerous drama music. Others said it was an indication that Snoop and Danny Boy's relationship had broken down once more following their resignation, which was meant to be a new beginning. It appears that the drama from the label's history is not going away, as old death row tensions are resurrecting. Let's now deal with the big issue. Snoop Dogg showed up to Johnny Dang's store and confronted him over the fake diamond scandal. So, did that happen? Is the title of this film. What we know is as follows. Johnny Dang and Snoop Dogg have been friends for a long time. Since its founding in 1998, Johnny Dang's company has sold personalized gold and diamond jewelry to celebrities including Snoop Dogg. Jay-Z, Kanye Music West, Cardi B, and Snoop Dogg are just a few of the celebrities Johnny has served with his personalized gold and diamond jewelry. Snoop has previously visited that store. Snoop and Johnny Dang had previously been pictured together. That is recorded. That's captured on camera. There is no question about that. The fact that Johnny Dang has been the subject of the fictitious diamond talk for years is also undeniable. Johnny Dang was accused by former employee Plug Geo of utilizing CVDs rather than real diamonds. Music and Plug Geo also discussed collaborating with Ben Baylor, entering the jewelry business, and being underpaid. Johnny Dang has had to deal with these claims while running a company that caters to the world's most image-conscious customers. Additionally, Johnny Dang has responded to the diamond controversy in a way that suits him. "I've been doing natural diamonds for over 25 years, Dang stated in an interview with KH at one of his showrooms in Houston. For Dang's well-known clients, the genuineness of a real diamond is about status more than merely sparkle. Although he does get lab-grown diamonds for those who ask, he claims that many of his clients prefer genuine diamonds. Thus, Johnny Dang's stance is evident. He offers lab-grown choices to clients who request them, and he sells real diamonds to those who desire them. There is no deceit in his storytelling. The lines were hazy in Plug Joe's account, and the music truth is most likely somewhere that only those directly engaged are confident of. Let's go back to Snoop Dogg and whether or not there was an altercation in the store. Snoop's name entered the fake jewelry discussion as a result of the Danny Boy phony chain charge. Danny Boy did not mention whether Snoop Dogg was aware that the chain was a fake or if it was just a mistake that went unnoticed. The door was left open by Danny Boy himself. He did not say that Snoop had intentionally misled him. He presented information regarding the chain's falsity. He did not claim that Snoop provided him a false piece on purpose, but he did show dissatisfaction over the circumstances. Others wondered if Snoop gave a phony chain on purpose or if there was a misunderstanding. At this point, the Johnny Dang connection turns from fact to conjecture. The individual wearing the chain might not have known either if it came from a jeweler, Johnny Dang, or someone else totally, and that jeweler supplied or sold a piece that wasn't what it looked like. During a video production, Snoop Dogg may have made a sincere gesture by removing a chain from his neck and placing it on Danny Boy's neck since he thought the necklace was genuine. Or it might have been something quite different. We don't know enough to comment. This is what we can say. The story of Snoop Dogg entering Johnny Dang's Houston business and getting into a fight is the result of several storylines colliding at the same moment. The long-standing doubts over Johnny Dang's diamonds and Danny Boy's alleged false chain. Snoop's relationship with Johnny Dang and Danny Boy. The internet does what it does when all those components are combined. It creates a narrative. The most memorable moment was when Danny Boy revealed the false chain. But there's a far deeper tale behind it. It's a meditation on fidelity, unmet expectations, and the challenge of regaining autonomy in a field that frequently disregards its pioneers. Music. This is not a physical confrontation. It's not about someone making a big deal when they enter a store. Music. The actual conflict takes place in public, during interviews, on social media, and in comment sections. Danny Boy confronts Snoop about what he perceives to be meaningless gestures. Johnny Dang is being confronted by former workers on what they claim to be dishonest business practices. Fans are challenging hip-hop and jewelry culture as a whole and questioning the veracity of the bling that characterizes the music. With costs ranging from $300 for a gold version to more than $200,000 for a grill encrusted with premium diamonds, grills, which account for a significant amount of Johnny's sales, are frequently seen as prestige symbols in the rap industry. Music when so much money is at stake and reputations are based on jewelry. The question of what is real versus false shifts from jewelry to trust. Music, it becomes a question of honesty, and if those at the top of the food chain are being truthful with those below them. The societal reaction to the video, which is currently making the rounds on X, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, shows how important these intimate stories are. Fans aren't only arguing over whether or not the chain was phony. They're arguing over the gesture's significance, how legacy artists are treated, and the hazy distinction between exploitation and compassion. Danny Boy's open narrative brings those issues back into the public eye. Snoop Dogg has not officially addressed Danny Boy's allegations. Danny Boy has said his piece and let the chips fall where they may, whereas Johnny Dang has not addressed this particular issue. The narrative is still evolving, but it's already evident that the discussion it sparked goes beyond any one artist, jeweler, or chain. It concerns the basis of hip-hop's image and if it is made of solid gold or something else entirely. That's the current situation. We'll talk about music if new information emerges, if Snoop reacts, if Johnny Dang talks about it, or if Danny Boy gives further information. However, the facts are what they are for the time being. A bogus chain, a shattered trust, and an industry music asking itself some hard questions. To ensure you don't miss the follow-up when more of this music tale is revealed, please like and subscribe if you found this analysis to be informative.